His arms would not let go. He could not win. He could not run. He could not stand, but he would not release. And the one holding him, the one whose arms were locked around him, asked a single question. What is your name? Not who do you think you are, but what is the deepest truth of who you are? Jacob could not answer. To speak his name truthfully would require him to confess the man he had spent 40 years trying to kill, a man named Jacob. But that man was about to die, and someone new was about to be born. This is his story, and it is yours. Before the wrestling, there was the running. Jacob fled through desert darkness, his brother's voice still burning. I will kill you. He had stolen a blessing, manipulated a birthright, betrayed the only family he had, and now, with nothing but a stone for a pillow, he was utterly alone. He could not outrun his conscience. Every option was exhausted. No plan could save him. No strategy could outrun Esau. No cunning could fix what he had broken. He was a fugitive, empty, desperate, and then something impossible happened. Heaven itself broke open. A ladder descended from the sky, not rope or wood. Light itself, golden, infinite, a bridge between dust and heaven. And God spoke, not with thunder, not with judgment, with a voice so tender it broke him further. I will reach you. I will come down, not because you deserve it, but because I love you. Heaven had descended to meet the desperate. God does not wait for us to climb toward him. God reaches down. For the first time since fleeing home, Jacob could breathe. He had been promised something impossible. He did not know yet that keeping that promise would break him entirely. 20 years passed. Jacob found his uncle. He worked, he married, he accumulated. The blessing God had whispered, it came true. All of it. Flocks multiplied, children were born, servants filled his camps. Gold accumulated beyond counting. Jacob ascended from refugee to patriarch. The promise was undeniable, but the man holding it was still broken. For a moment, just a moment, he forgot that he had ever needed God. Success is seductive. It tells you that you are right, that your methods work, that your control is wisdom. So Jacob brought those same skills into his faith. He prayed strategic prayers. He made strategic choices. Every outcome was arranged, every contingency planned. The more God gave him, the more afraid Jacob became. Abundance for a controller just means more to lose. He had gone from desperate faith to desperate control, and he did not even realize it. The promise at Bethel had said, I will be with you. But Jacob lived like God had abandoned him. Then the message came. 4 words. Esau is coming toward you. In a single moment, everything Jacob had built for 20 years felt absolutely paper thin. All his wealth, all his security, useless. You cannot strategize your way out of the man you wronged. Jacob switched into overdrive. He organized, he strategized, he planned, he divided his family into groups, calculated which ones could be sacrificed. He sent waves of expensive gifts ahead, trying to manipulate his brother's heart through bribery. It looked like wisdom. It sounded like leadership, but it was pure terror dressed up in the language of strategy. And God, watching this desperate man scramble to solve what only God could solve, finally said, enough. It was time. Time to stop. Time to surrender. Time to meet the one who had always been trying to save him. Jacob sent his family across the river. His gifts were sent ahead. Everything a clever man could do, done, and then he was completely alone. No family to manage, no servants to direct, no strategy to execute, just Jacob and the darkness and the river. This is when heaven's work becomes possible. God cannot transform us while we perform, cannot reshape us while we manage, only in complete solitude. And then the darkness moved, not with an army, not with singing, just movement, presence, contact. The stranger seized Jacob without warning. Their bodies collided, immediate, brutal. Wrestling began instantly. Jacob had no time to think, no time to calculate, no time to strategize. Every instinct came alive, every bit of cunning, everything he had ever used to survive. But Jacob did not know what he could not know. He was wrestling God himself, and it was mercy disguised as opposition. Every trick Jacob knew, grasping, scheming, overpowering, none of it worked. The stranger was calm, precise, moving with supernatural patience. While Jacob exhausted himself throwing everything he had, the stranger barely exerted effort. This was more than physical struggle. This was God dragging the entire architecture of Jacob's life into the open. Every shortcut, every manipulation, every clever move that had built his empire, but also kept him stuck in fear and control. All of it being tested in darkness against the one who had given him every gift. And for the first time, Jacob's way was not working. The stranger's hand moved toward Jacob's thigh, the strongest muscle, center of strength, pillar of balance. The touch was almost gentle, but in that instant, dislocated, broken, useless. The hip is where humans source their power. It is how we stand, how we walk, how we run. What God touched was the center of Jacob's self-trust. Your strength is not your own. Your ability to save yourself over everything you believed made you capable, dismantled, and I love you more than your independence. And in that moment, when all Jacob's strength was gone, something unexpected happened. Jacob won. He could no longer wrestle from power, so he held on from need. He could not overpower heaven, but he refused to let go when all power had left him. Not by strength, by dependence, not by cunning, by desperate prayer. This is the strange mathematics of God. The kingdom works through weakness. The Lord does not break a man to leave him broken. He breaks him to name him again. All of Jacob's life had been lived as Jacob. Jacob the supplanter, Jacob the grasper, Jacob the schemer. That man was being buried by the river. And then the voice came, calm, clear, certain. Your name is Israel. You have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed. Jacob's story is not just Jacob's story. It is the story of all humanity. Both nights point to someone greater. At Bethel, heaven came down toward Jacob, a ladder, a bridge between dust and infinity. God reaches down. God provides the way. God does not require humans to climb toward him. God descends. This is Christ. The ladder, the bridge, the mediator between holy God and broken humanity. At Peniel, heaven came down again, but not as vision, as wrestler, as judge, as the one who opposes what needs to be opposed. God came not just to promise, but to transform. This, too, is Christ. The one who loves us too much to leave us as we are, whose hands are both terrifying and tender, breaking false strength so true strength can grow. Here is the revelation that changes everything. What Jacob experienced for one night, the wounding, the breaking, the surrender, the blessing purchased through pain, Christ experienced completely at the cross for all of us, forever. The hidden Christ is in both nights, in the ladder and in the wrestling, in the promise and in the breaking. God's highest work often looks like opposition, but breaking is never the end. It is always the doorway to resurrection. Now, I need to tell you where you are in this story. Jacob's story is prophecy. It is your life lived ahead of time. You are living Bethel and Peniel right now. Somewhere you have experienced a moment when you knew something real, when a door opened, when God has spoken, a calling, a relationship, an opportunity. For a moment, you saw the ladder. You saw the way forward. You could breathe. Then came the pressure. Years went by. The vision felt real but distant. Success came but not peace. Increase came but not joy. The promise was true, but the person holding it was still broken, still afraid, still controlling, still scheming to make happen what God promised would happen. You started strong, you had faith, but somewhere faith became anxiety, prayer became management, trust became control. Some of the most faithful people you know are living from private anxiety disguised as faith. They pray while trusting control. They ask God to lead while arranging every outcome. They study scripture about trust while strategizing contingencies. They quote verses about faith while building alternate plans. They believe in God. They just do not quite trust Him yet. It does not look like rebellion. It looks like responsibility, like wisdom, like good stewardship. All the Christian words that make control sound spiritual, they bring that same skill into their faith. Pray strategic prayers. Make strategic choices. Position themselves strategically, as if blessing were something to engineer rather than receive. And they are terrified. Because deep down, they know the truth. They cannot control the outcome. Most people do not consciously decide to encounter God. They encounter God because the thing they have relied on stops working. The strategy fails. The backup plan crumbles. The position disappears. The promotion does not come. The relationship does not recover. The child does not return. The diagnosis does not improve. And in that moment, when you realize you cannot control the outcome, something shifts. You can panic and create new strategies, or you can collapse. Collapse is where the real work begins. Because God does not abandon you in the collapse. God meets you there. In your exact moment of failure, God is closest. The breaking is the blessing. If Christ is present only in answered prayers and blessing, Bethel comforts us, but Peniel terrifies us. But if Christ is present in the night of undoing, in the collapse, when what you relied on is taken away, then even the struggle is no longer empty. Christ is there too. The same Lord who opened heaven at Bethel is the Lord who wounds at Peniel. But the opposition is not rejection. The wounding is not judgment. It is love so intense it cannot let you keep destroying yourself. Trust the hidden Christ. The one who breaks you is the one who saves you. If you are living right now between promise and peace, do not assume God has abandoned you. You may be being prepared. Jacob saw heaven before he was ready to live it. He was blessed before he was broken. Then he was broken into the kind of man who could hold that blessing. The wrestling was not punishment. It was preparation. Your name is being changed right now. You just do not know it yet. If this story resonated with you, share it. Someone you know is living their Peniel right now. They need to hear that breaking is not the end. It is the Doorway. Subscribe so you never miss a story that transforms how you see suffering, faith, and grace.